One thing I'll always hate and love about myself is that in order for me to move myself from something, I need to be completely destroyed by it first. And it's not a lack of self-love. It's the faith that I have in believing that everything can change. And so when they turn back or the thing turns back to blame me, I'll always have the fact that I tried and tried and tried. But tolerating always turns into resentment. At first you call it patience, then love. But what it really is self-abandonment, I've realized. Every time you swallow a boundary, excuse a pattern, or silence discomfort, something inside you keeps score. And the bill comes due at some point. And I've been thinking about that a lot.
Yeah.
About the difference between patience and self-abandonment, as we have just discovered that is what I'd like to call it. And how easy it is to romanticize this endurance that you kind of sugarcoat and put colored glasses on and call it love. About how sometimes we prolong tolerance and dress it up in good intentions. And I think that's where this episode begins. But I knew I didn't want to unpack this alone. And so I would very happily like to welcome back my lovely Sarah.
Hello.
Who has already been part of this space before on her episode Asking for Help, which you guys should definitely check out. We spoke about vulnerability and admitting when we don't have it together. But this episode feels like the next chapter of that conversation. Because what happens after you ask for help? What happens after you outgrow something? What happens when you realize the version of yourself that tolerated everything is no longer who you are? So today we're talking about becoming, about eclipses, about the quiet, necessary darkness that precedes alignment. So as a prelogue to our topic of eclipse, I wanted to start off by defining an eclipse.
Okay.
An eclipse isn't destruction. It isn't something dying. It isn't chaos. It's alignment. It's when one body passes in front of another and temporarily blocks light. Not permanently, not violently, not out of spite, but part of a natural order. It looks dramatic from the outside. It feels intense. But it's a transition, not a collapse. And that's what becoming feels like in your 20s. Not a breakdown, not a personality shift, not some dramatic reinvention, an eclipse. Moments where your old self is temporarily obscured so something truer can emerge. Moments where the version of you that people knew, that you knew, becomes temporarily obscured so something more aligned can surface. It doesn't mean the old version was fake. It just means it was incomplete. And I've realized something. I don't learn things through theory first. I learned them through impact and through experience. And so, and getting it wrong, basically.
Yeah.
I feel like there is a lot to learn in being allowed to make mistakes and learn from them. And so, as well as like staying too long, believing too much, tolerating until resentments force clarity. Yeah. Okay. And so, education has always come after exposure for me. And maybe that's the real frontal lobe development process that no one really... Stop it.
The performance in the Donald Gordon Theatre will commence in 15 minutes. I work here. I hear her all the freaking time.
Education has always come after exposure for me. And maybe that's the real frontal lobe development process that I'm gonna like...
Okay. Should be done now.
Hopefully.
Okay.
Education has always come after exposure for me. And maybe that's the real frontal lobe development process that no one really explains. not the biology, not the lived epiphanies, the multiple realizations that stack up on top of each other until one day you wake up and think, oh, I see. You don't learn things, or at least I feel like I didn't learn so much through theory. I learned it much more through practice, through being humbled, through internships that shake you, through conversations that fracture you, through outgrowing people, and that you once begged to stay.
Literally.
Becoming is not a single epiphany for me. It's multiple small eclipses. And that's the frontal lobe development no one warns you about. And so to move on to our first segment, I titled it Tolerating versus Transforming because I feel like, in essence, tolerating something or sticking with something that you know deep down in your heart is not what is supposed to be there always stops the transforming from happening.
Yeah.
And I always use this this little anecdote that I like to help, you know, it kind of helped me first, and it's very dramatic and everything, you know. But it's like when you have a puzzle piece and, you know, especially the ones where like it's very hard to put them together, especially the ones with like no picture at all, you know, which in terms sometimes you can be like, this is what life is, a puzzle without the picture, because it's kind of working itself through as you are living. And so when you're trying to put together a puzzle and you are forcefully trying to fit a piece that does not belong there, you know, if you push hard enough, it will fit. But sorry, it will not fit. It will kind of budge in, you know. But then you're not giving space for the real piece to sit in its place.
100%.
And in turn, you stop the energies, the forces of what your life is supposed to carry on. The picture will never be complete because you are forcing a piece to stick in a place that it does not fit in.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
And so, tolerating versus transforming.
Yeah.
You know? And I find that there's a particular grief in realizing that you offered yourself to situations, to people, to you know, practices or experiences themselves, and in full sentences, and they just only knew how to read you in fragments. One thing that genuinely destabilizes me is when I'm talking to someone and I can feel them actively choosing to interpret me in the shallowest, most inaccurate way possible. It's like they're ready and they just needed some evidence to kind of pin against you. And it's not because they misunderstood necessarily, but it's because that version of me supports a narrative that they already had decided on.
Yeah.
And that's when I internally lose it. And I guess in very various ways, that is the jolt that you need for you to be like, okay, I should stop budging this piece. Yeah. It should go somewhere else.
But you know, the crazy thing about tolerating is that no one's forcing you to tolerate anything. You are putting yourself in a position where you are actively and almost willingly and consenting to tolerating or, you know, like accepting standards that are not for you, or like putting yourself in a place that you know you shouldn't be at. No one's forcing you against your will. You're tolerating an environment and choosing not to do anything about a certain situation or environment that you're in. And I find that depressing, but we've all been there.
It is. And I think there's a lot to consider from that as well, because sometimes it's the security that you feel, the comfortableness in the rhythm. And not necessarily to say that it was a healthy rhythm or a healthy, you know, wave that you're on, but you have already accustomed yourself to that negativity or that toxic cycle. And so getting out of it, or, you know, kind of trying to move on and finding something else that might feed your soul more deeply is scary. Yeah. Because it is a new experience or new people.
People fear change.
People fear change. And I think that kind of reduction feels violent. And it feels like being studied through a distorted lens.
Yeah.
and then blamed for that distortion. You know, and it's evil.
Yeah.
I think it's evil,
I think so as well.
and people should be nicer.
Yeah, defo. Come on, guys. We're all in this together. It's all our first time on Earth. Like, be nice.
Exactly. That is a very important message that, should be taken in more kindly, for sure. But here's what I'm learning. It's okay if someone doesn't clap for you. I've seen the people some of you cheer for. And sometimes the people who aren't celebrating you aren't the people you'd want to be celebrated by anyway. And I think that when you come to terms with that, it brings you so much peace and so much confidence in where you are, and confidence in the fact that you were able to untangle, untie, and crawl out of that space. And you deserve a round of applause, genuinely. There's this other thing that, I feel like should be addressed in terms of escaping places and areas that don't really fit you, or are not aligned or with your life's course, or where you feel like you see yourself at some point. If you're fighting for your life internally, whether it be, whatever extent it really was, because at the end of the day, we all are fighting for something or against something to kind of get to the next step. Some people will only notice that you're not showing up for them the way they want. They won't ask, are you okay? They'll say, you've changed. But healing doesn't require an audience, and you don't owe access to people who only miss your usefulness.
Yeah.
They don't ask why you went quiet. They get frustrated that your energy isn't available. And I'm learning this slowly, that this concept, you don't owe anyone access to you while you're trying to heal, especially if they are not understanding that, and they are just not craving, but so much so demanding your being there without your humanness.
Yeah, it's selfish. And the people that care will like see that shift and see that difference, and they will go the extra mile to like make sure that you're okay. See if there's something out of character, like I should be there for that person in this time, not demanding everything from them, because this process of transforming, this process of like getting better, however that looks for people, it can look very different for different individuals. You never know kind of what someone's going through or what they need. And I'll tell you this for free, no one needs you demanding them of anything, or like not giving them the empathy or sympathy that they would need in that point. People got to do better.
Yeah. And I guess, when they notice that you're no longer performing for them, they were never really seeing you to begin with. They're seeing what you did for them.
Yeah.
If someone only misses your usefulness and not your well-being, that tells you everything to begin with.
Everything.
Protect your peace. Fall back if you need to. The right people don't respond to your silence with complaints. They respond with care. Exactly how you portrayed it, genuinely. Just to give this topic a bit of a slight detour, a little bit of a different angle, I came across this quote that it genuinely really had me looking at the screen for a couple of minutes.
Shook you.
It really did, genuinely. Yeah. It says, to reconnect with the person who hurt you is disrespectful to the version of you who survived it.
Killer.
Honestly. When you choose the ache of walking away over the emptiness of staying, that's with strength.
Yeah.
Be proud of that. Cutting people off isn't always about hate. Sometimes it's alignment. Sometimes it's growth. Sometimes it's different mindsets. And personally, I've been through many experiences where I've been called too harsh, too heartless, for removing myself from a situation that I felt like if I do continue, I will lose touch with myself. I will lose touch with myself. I will lose touch of the direction that I want myself to end up in.
Yeah.
And nothing is worth that detour. There's absolutely no excuse that I can accept for some something to come into my life and create such a distortion to it where I no longer can touch base with myself.
Yeah.
And so I will leave. I will leave and I will regain focus on myself.
Of course.
I will put myself back on the pedestal because that is what I deserve. You know?
I think a big part of this is also like access, like how people having access to you, like I think it needs to be understood what you're able to give someone, whether that's your presence, whether that's the things that you have to say, whether that's, you know, your skill sets. Like that is access. If someone has that access to you, like that, they should cherish that. And like, if someone does you wrong, they don't deserve that access to you anymore. And sometimes I don't think it's because of course, like there's context to a lot of situations, right? Sometimes it's deserving of a complete and utter cut off, get the hell out of here. But then you have other instances where it could just be like, I'm not going to cut you off, but you have lost access to me. And sometimes, you know, that is a lot, like that is powerful. Like you don't have, because you've acted the way that you have acted, you don't get the same access to me that you had. And like there is a lot of power in that, in like choosing to like pick and choose who gets to have that amount of access to you. And like cherishing that and understanding like how much worth that you have.
Definitely.
And like where to place that energy.
For sure. Definitely.
Yeah.
And you know, this fits right into something else that I read. And it's, again, something that I really had to sit with this. You always have to expect people to be exactly who they are. You know, it's the expectation. When you expect people to act outside of who they are, you will suffer every single time. Always expect people to be exactly who they are. If you saw a skunk in your backyard, are you gonna wonder why he's not hopping like a rabbit? A skunk will do what a skunk does.
Facts.
And it's not betraying you by being itself. But somehow when people show you their patterns repeatedly, we act shocked. We ask, why are you like this? As if they signed a contract to be different. No one is going to act anything other than themselves. The only person you can control, the only person you can reliably reshape is the one you see in the mirror every day.
Is yourself,
And that's a really hard pill to swallow because it shifts the responsibility back to you. The only person you can rely on to become who you want them to be is you. And so having this abundant trust or abundant hope in, no, but they have this potential of being, no. This is who they are.
They've shown you who they are.
They've shown you who they are. You open your eyes, you take those rose glass colors because, you know, it will be the same every single time. And you are not disappointing anyone but yourself at this point. And as you said, you know, at that point, it's all about the access you give people, about the effort you put in. And genuinely, anything other than that is you're being mean to yourself.
You're not respecting yourself.
You're being mean to yourself.
You know? I think it's a natural, like, human innate thing to, like, hope and, like, love can make you do such crazy things. Like, once you love someone and care about them, like, you're going to give them a million excuses. You're going to have hope in them. But sometimes it really just takes you being like, we're done. Get away from me, for them to actually work on themselves, for them to realize what they've done. Like, losing that access to you will make them realize things in themselves. And by keeping them around, by keeping these people around after they repeat these mistakes, you are not helping them. You're not benefiting them at all, because you are showing them, even if you've told them that they've done wrong, even if you've said you owe me an apology, by you accepting them in your life and having them still have access to you, you are giving in to the pattern. Because you're showing that it doesn't have as much consequence as you think it does.
Exactly. You know, I did have the situation where it was very enlightening for me, because I sat and I was like, okay, but I'm so hurt right now. I feel so inconsidered. And I don't know what to do with all of these feelings because here I am yet again considering you, your position, your needs and your wants. And so I was stuck. I was stuck and I was baffled and I had no words. I sat with that and I was like, you know what? That's it. I'm done. I am done thrashing my feelings. I come first this time.
Yeah.
And that was not received in the nicest way.
Of course not.
That was not received in the nicest way. And honestly, I was like, thank you. I needed that. Now watch me leave.
Fact. Watch me get out the door, if anything, okay?
To move on to our next segment 2, imposter syndrome has been a topic that I have visited many, many a time. And I feel like it is very important to focus on very different ways you can experience imposter syndrome. There is a lot that goes into it. And so, imposter syndrome and a paid internship. So, let's get into it.
Let's get into it. Tell me the story.
So, last summer, I stepped into a different version of myself. I took part in multiple internships before starting year 3.
Okay.
And something about it being paid changed everything. It wasn't just experience anymore. It felt real. It felt like I had stepped out of this simulation and into something with consequences, something that carried value. Now I became someone who was able to begin to imprint and leave a purpose or walk through this purpose that is supposedly mine, right? And the imposter syndrome hit very differently because of this paid factor. It felt more real, more final, like this wasn't a classroom simulation anymore, you know? This was a preview of life after uni. And I started asking myself questions that I felt, you know, I wasn't even prepared for.
Okay.
Was what I signed up for? Do I still want this? Does the change I've gone through mean I don't see myself behind this desk anymore? In lectures, I blend in. I hide behind my laptop. I'm one of the many faces. But in internship, you are visible. You are accountable and you cannot disappear in a crowd.
Yeah.
You know? And, you know, some of the things that really, like, did kind of leave me super unstable is the fact that, you know, there were a lot of things that I had to like kind of work with during the internship that I still was not taught. Okay. And so I was exposed to things I hadn't formally studied yet in a classroom, in a safe environment, with a place where it sort of felt like someone was spoon feeding you, you know? And my bones trembled. I was like, whoa, you know, why don't I know this already? Was I supposed to pre-learn this? Is my intellect too low for this? Will I just be another face? And here's what I realized. It wasn't that I didn't understand eventually. It was that I felt late. And being late in your 20s feels catastrophic, you know? Education teaches you framework, but practice teaches you confidence. Becoming doesn't happen through memorization. It happens through exposure. You don't learn competence from reading alone, you know, all the cases, all the case law when it comes to me, you know, like I just sit there, read the law and like, you know, apply that later on. But like I said, everything was safe. Your mistakes were meant to happen here. You were meant to do them for someone to come and be like, oh, great attempt. This is how it should be done, you know? And so you learn it from doing, from making mistakes in rooms that matter. And that's what really shook me, you know? I knew that room mattered. And I knew that my mistakes had to be calculated if ever I were to make one. You know? And that really, really did scare me. It made me feel like I had to be perfect. You know? And honestly, something that I have been trying to detach myself from is this strive to perfection. Because perfection means you are a robot. And I am not.
Mm.
I am Medak with her mistakes and her achievements
Yeah.
and her trip ups and her fall downs, because Medak is also the girl who got up and
Mm.
wiped her pants
Mm.
and, you know, stitched up those scars, and she made her way back. And that was really important for me.
Mm.
It was really important for me, and I felt very unsafe. But it's okay.
Mm.
It's okay, because as we were saying, maybe the eclipse isn't self-doubt
Mm.
or inadequacy.
Mm-hmm.
It's the transition of it.
Yes.
And so that's not to say that you're still not allowed to make mistakes. You're still not allowed to trip up. It's just that there has to be a safer environment where you are not encouraged to make mistakes per se, but you have the space to make them.
Yeah.
Because that is how you learn.
Mm.
If you do not make a mistake, then there is absolutely nothing to build up from.
Definitely. Yeah.
But then, like, you know, like, if you're perfect, then like,
happy days.
You know, I don't know if that really was just a mumble of words, but like, I truly feel like you need something to work out of, and there's absolutely no way that you are
completely and utterly like mistake free and perfect. There's no way.
There's no way.
And if you are, then like you haven't really succeeded at life, have you? Because if you're perfect at the age of 20, then what are you going to do for the next 70 years? You know?
Exactly. Yeah. Yes. Okay. This feeds in wonderfully to our third segment that I have titled The Art of Not Being Ready.
Mm.
And again, I love my quotes. I love, you know, finding things very funnily online and just being like, oh my God, this really works well. Yeah. And so this ties into something that's been sitting with me for a while. One of the segments that I've researched for this episode says, the art of not being ready and doing it anyway will carry you further than perfection ever could.
Mm.
And to be honest, that's how my podcast works. I don't sit down with a rigid schedule. I don't blueprint every revelation. My content is very niche because it's lived.
Mm.
It comes from the day-to-day life experience, from random conversations, from small emotional earthquakes. Sometimes I have a title months before the substance arrives. Sometimes I live the episode before I understand it.
Oh, wow.
And I like that because it means I'm not forcing clarity. I'm allowing it.
Yeah.
I don't like the frustration or the stress that comes with, oh my God, like, you know, like, why hasn't this happened to me yet? Or why have I truly let life flow through me.
Yeah, you're not rushing yourself.
Not at all.
Yeah, you're not putting this expectation on yourself that is like, that's not where I'm at, you know? Like, I'm going to allow life to teach me what it needs to teach me right now, and I'm not expecting myself to be at like level 100 when I'm still, you know.
Yeah. Exactly. And you know, sometimes as well, I find myself in a lot of positions where I would be at, let's say, level 50, but I find myself unable to move past something or like break it down at level 30.
Yeah.
And it's okay to go back down to talk to level 30 Milak.
Of course.
Sit with her. Figure it through, because then you're able to move up to level 60.
Definitely.
You know, if there are things that have left, that you have left, and you have left them unresolved, untreated, untalked about, I don't even know if that's a word.
Yeah.
But, you know, that will really stop you from just moving on. Because there is something that you were supposed to be taught, that you were supposed to experience, that you were supposed to dwell in.
Yeah.
And you didn't.
Yeah, and here it is. Because it's going to come up anyway.
Gonna come back up,
and
definitely.
It's okay to go backwards, you know? Like, no one is telling you where you have to be, and like how, like, growth is never linear. It is never going to look like one line in this trajectory. Like, there are going to be bumps in the road, and it is okay to go back on yourself. It is okay to like relearn certain things. It's okay to relive the same mistakes until you get the outcome that is going to make you flourish into the person that you need to be. Like, it is okay to go backwards. It's fine.
Yeah.
You're okay.
Genuinely.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, it's so funny because I do pinch myself a lot when I have specific things that I want to go in a specific way.
Okay.
And, you know, it usually ties down to the podcast, given that I feel like it is so close to my life.
Yeah.
And, you know, one of the, like, most tedious and, like, funniest things that recently just happened. So what I like to do is I'd like to promote the, like, slideshow post first of the episode title, a little bit of a snippet and description of what it's about, and, you know, a little bit more.
Yeah.
And then I post the promo reels.
Yes.
I had mistakenly forgotten to do the slideshow before the promo reels for the second episode. And when I tell you I lost it, my brother had to sit me down and he's like, look, you're not being graded on this. You are sharing your life. And life is not one perfect bow. It is not a pretty pink bow that, you know, sits atop your head.
Yeah.
It is messy. It is hard. It is complicated. And honestly, that really did shut me up. I was like, wow, this is in itself what I wanted to portray through the podcast. That life is all of that. Yeah. But there is so much to it. You learn so much. You find so much happiness within that. You know, there are so many small things within that. Small victories, small epiphanies, small eclipses. And you're like, oh my God, full picture.
Yeah.
You know? And I just had to sit down and breathe.
Just take a minute.
Genuinely. Because I was sitting there having a full trip out about a post. Yeah. Because it did not align what I wanted it to look like. And the thing is, no one's sitting there and be like, oh, like Melag doesn't have like an appropriate like flow to it.
Yeah.
No one cares. They just want to see the stuff that I have to post.
Exactly.
And they're just like laughing and enjoying it and being like, wow. Maybe they're like, wow, I don't know.
No, they are. You're being like, wow. Okay, we know.
And so, this podcast is essentially like a therapized version of my diary entries as well. And that's why I say that it's so closely tied to my life. It's my internal dialogue externalized. And that means that it doesn't follow a syllabus, it follows my growth. Yeah. Doing it before you feel ready is uncomfortable. But waiting for readiness is often just fear disguised as preparation. Yeah. Perfection delays, practice evolves, and that's becoming too. Trusting that clarity will arrive when it's ready for you to receive it, not when you demand it.
Of course.
Genuinely. And honestly, I need to calm down. That's what it's all about. You know, this is all just to keep reminding myself that I need to calm down. You guys need to calm down and breathe.
Calm down. Take a deep breath. You know,
have all the time in the world.
Yeah.
Like, you're good. Genuinely. It's all good.
Yeah. But I do want to say, like, I feel really honored to like be a part of this podcast because I know how close you hold it to your heart, and I know how much like, you know, this means to you, and how it's like your little precious baby that's a reflection of like, you know, everything that you've been through, everything that you've accomplished. And I just feel so honored to like be a guest in this experience with you, you know, and like hear everything that you have to say and like go through this journey with you, you know. It's beautiful. And
you're
I'm just
an
like,
absolute gem, Sarah. No, honestly, I have been the one that's hassling her, you know. Sarah, make some time for me. I want you back on here.
I'm so bad with my phone.
Girl, that is not what it's about. I am saying that I like am so honored to have you here, and I, you know, with my own like, you know, I want you here, and I really appreciate you making the time and being here. Genuinely, Always. It means so much to me Always. To have you be part of this journey, for sure. So for our fourth and final segment, yes. I would like to touch upon time, embarrassment, and how both of those can become a social construct.
Yes.
There's this theory that time feels faster as you age because your brain processes fewer new experiences.
Okay.
And that's why childhood felt endless, because everything was new. Your brain was constantly forming memories, so time stretched. But in adulthood, especially in university, routines compress experience. Days blur, weeks collapse. Years pass. Uni essentially compresses time, or at least that's what I would like to portray it as, because I feel like time with uni has been something that I've been like so weary about, and not necessarily like in a bad way. It's just that like it's just time is so weird in uni. And so I've considered it as like some sort of social construct. 3 years, degree, job, productivity. You sign it without even reading the fine print because it is so glorified, you know? And suddenly you're aware that time is not infinite.
Yeah.
And again, that kind of like shakes you to your core, especially in your 20s. It's something that it's such an unstable time. So many things that you are unsure of. It's like, yeah, it's like a tunnel, you know? And you're always like, okay, where's the light?
Is it
I was told
coming
there's
soon?
a light, right?
Yeah.
And so no one tells you that alongside lectures, deadlines, you'll be negotiating your identity as well. That you'll question the path you choose, that you'll sit at a desk you once dreamed of and ask, is this still mine?
Wow.
Time moves whether you're aligned or not, and that is super terrifying. I've always talked about how it, in previous episodes, about how uni has felt like a fever dream, you know, especially in terms of like flying to and fro home. I have become like absurdly like not terrified, but it's just I've become so uncomfortable on planes as well. I feel like that, you know, that shift that kind of drags you from here and there makes it so, it blurs so many things, you know. Coming here and having what's the word? What is it when you when you're shocked by the culture?
Culture shock.
Shocked by the
when
culture.
You're shocked by the culture. You got it. It's there.
So as I was saying,
the
culture shock that you face when you first come to the city that you're studying, and then the culture shock that you face when you go back home.
Oh my God!
You know, it kind of works hand in hand in a very weird and funny way, and so it's made things so wobbly for me. And it was very nice to hear this theory that because you are so used to that, like the new experiences were just happening in your childhood, and now being literally uprooted, changing your whole lifestyle, your dynamic, your routine, that kind of feeds back into it, and it makes time feel weird again.
Yeah.
Not weird again. It makes times feel weird, and then you kind of are like, okay, but like this is not how I was feeling the past couple of years. Everything was steady and stable, and now I kind of am going back to making time feel longer. But like the longness of it is no longer exciting and fully like, you know, fulfilling in a way, because you still don't know what really feeds your soul at that point. So yeah, honestly, time has been something that I needed to make peace with, sort of, and yeah, I felt like for the most of it I was running, that I was trying to achieve something, accomplish something, and obviously yes, to the degree, but there is so much more within it that you are trying to become.
And I always look at uni as like an experience. I know before I was like, oh my God, what am I going to study? Because I had some difficulty with like choosing a major and stuff. And I was like, what am I going to study? Like, what am I going to do? This is going to be my future. This is going to be the rest of my life. And like right now, like with my time, I have 2 jobs. You know, I've started a business freelance, you know, like I work in marketing here at the center, and like I have my degree, and everything that I do outside of uni has nothing to do with my degree. And like I'm giving myself that grace, you know, like I'm giving myself that kind of understanding that like it's okay, and none of the time that I'm wasting, like, or and spending in uni, it's never wasting. None of the time I'm spending in uni is a waste, because I can use all of that skill in my job, just in a different way.
Exactly.
You know, and like I think people rush into like their degree and like deciding their life at 18, when it's like, babe, you are young. You're a baby. You're a tiny little baby. Like, you're not supposed to have your whole life figured out. Like, you're going to find opportunities, find new interests, and you're going to be introduced to new people. And then they're going to be like, maybe you should do this, or maybe I can work with you on this and stuff like that. And it's just like, time will never get too far ahead of you.
For sure.
And especially at the age that we're at, you have time. So much time.
So much.
Like, people are 35 and they don't have it figured out. Why are we freaking out at 20 and 21? Like,
truly.
you know?
Truly, yeah. And it's all about, pacing it. And like you said, like I've always said, like, you need to take every experience that comes up and presents itself to you in uni, because like you said, it doesn't really necessarily have to align at this point of time.
Yeah.
It's all about the experience. Genuinely, I resonate so much with what you just said.
Yeah.
And to just like expand on it a little bit more, like you said, you're doing so many things that are so separate to your degree. I mean, hey, law and podcasting, and sometimes it kind of feeds into an identity crisis, if you like, and you're like, oh my god, but I committed again, you sign up to this contract, you're like, I committed to a degree, a course, and I'm a lawyer, but also you're Medoc, and so Medoc can be a podcaster and a lawyer and an empath, and it blurs so much into the degree and the profession and you as a human being. It's so many things in one place. And so time,
you have time,
genuinely,
please.
it is just breathe.
I wish, I really wish I took a gap year. And I think that is like so terrifying to people, like, sometimes. But I'm just like, I think I would have known myself, because like, even coming to Cardiff, it took me a year to find myself and like find what I love. And like, not that I wasted a year of uni, I did not, but I just like, I would have liked that time to get to know myself and get to know what I wanted to do, and not just rush into like something. You get what I mean? And like, everything does happen for a reason. But it's like, I really wish I would have been able to just have that time and like tell myself, like, it's okay, like, take a bit,
Yeah, for sure. And like, as we've like previously kind of touched upon in separate conversations, where like, especially the environment you're in, it really affects how you get to do this process on its own. You're being uprooted. You're in a new country. You are across the world. And you've just genuinely just hatched into the real world.
You just become an adult.
You've just become an adult. There's so much that comes with that. And you are trying to figure out who you are as a human in terms of your major, your likes and your dislikes, and just in general, everything, everything. And it's a full plate. It's a full plate.
It's a lot.
And you just too much. And it's okay to breathe. It's okay to take it one step at a time. And it's okay to stop and be like, hey, give yourself some grace.
Give yourself some grace.
You have to allow yourself to be human. Genuinely.
Give yourself the time.
Honestly. I love that. Honestly. So to go further a little bit into this, I also think of embarrassment as a social construct.
Okay.
It only exists because we imagine an audience. But most people are too busy managing their own insecurities to analyze yours. Because we assume people are analyzing us the way we analyze ourselves. But most people are too busy, analyzing their own insecurities to hold yours under a microscope. Genuinely, like for the most of it, people have way too little time to be, pin picking at you. I don't know if that's a word. And yet we self-sabotage for validation, the human being curse of validation. We rush growth to prove something. We cut down our own progress just to avoid standing out, because as I've mentioned in other episodes as well, I think it was the manifesting episode, where we shrink our own selves because of what a set standard tells us we have to be portrayed as. And that's scary. That is really scary in terms of identity finding, for sure. But if I were to give a piece of advice to kind of like manage a little bit of this, is if you're persistent, you'll get it. If you're consistent, you'll keep it. If you're grateful, you'll attract more of it. But if every time a flower grows in your garden and you cut it down to prove you're not delusional, you'll never see it bloom.
Tell them.
At all.
Facts.
Stop sabotaging your own becoming just to avoid discomfort. And stop looking for revenge. Does not serve you. And you're just giving the other person the validation of it.
And the people that you surround yourself with, someone that loves you is never going to think that you are embarrassing or that you are too much. Like, it's a known thing about me, yeah? I'm two things. I'm loud and I'm dramatic. And everyone knows this. And I think before I was really like insecure about it.
Yeah.
Like, I think that I was put down a lot for it, and I was like, oh, these are such negative traits of mine, and I'd like try to be more like nonchalant, try to be more like this, and I'm just like, that's not me. And I've come into these new spaces, and like, you could ask anyone today, like, is Sara dramatic? And they'll be like, yeah. And they won't say it in a way of like, ugh, yeah. They'll be like, she is, and like, that's the way it is.
We love her.
And we love her for it.
We love you.
You know? And I've never had to like shrink myself to like, or feel embarrassed to be who I am, because in the spaces that I'm in now, I'm fully accepted and loved for who I am, and I don't need to even try to be a different person. And it's allowed me to like have a lot of grace on myself, yeah, but also it's allowed me to grow. It's allowed me to feel comfortable to find who I am fully, without trying to like hide certain parts of myself, without trying to restrict myself. Like, I've genuinely been able to grow, find who I am completely, and take the support that I can from everything, and just be like, this is who I am, because I'm not restricting myself. I'm not following social constructs. I'm not like trying to mold myself into who these people are expecting. Exactly. And it's just so refreshing.
Yes.
It's beautiful.
Definitely. I'm so happy. That's really nice to hear, genuinely. And you know, you kind of hit something in me as well when you were talking about being loud. I actually had this very not recent, but like beginning of uni, where I was told that you're loud. And as you said, like it's something that people tend to make you insecure about.
Yeah.
And you know, it's not about being like loud in an annoying way or where you discomfort people. This is just who you are. You're filled with joy and excitement, and you want to show that.
It's passion.
It's passion.
It's literally passion.
Genuinely, and you're just being you for the sake of being you. And I built up the courage to go up to this person and be like, don't call me loud.
Facts.
Don't ever call me loud.
I'm loud for you. I'm not loud for like the people that care about me. You've been to like, remember that gig that you were at and I was photographing? Yeah. Do you hear me scream? Aywa.
Yes.
I scream at the top of my lungs,
people.
Right? And it's like, I'm known now as like the girl that's in the front row and always screaming, and like people love me. People literally say like, Sara, I really wish that you would come to this thing, because I know no one's gonna be there, but I know that like your voice will make me feel like, you know, that there are people want there.
You for your lovely qualities.
Exactly.
Genuinely.
And they're like, yeah,
you know, and
if someone now tells me, Sara, you're being too much or hake, I will literally be like, I haven't heard those words in so long.
I'm so happy.
No one would ever dare say that to me now.
Your circles are so healthy.
Yeah. They're literally like, sort of like, if you feel like you need to like speak in that volume, speak in that volume. And or if I am being too loud, like in a place where I'm supposed to be quiet, they'll tell me, but they'll tell me in a way of like, sort of like, it's like, you know,
with
like love and care. Not trying to restrict me, just saying, just for this scenario, like, you know.
They're taking care of you. Yeah. And, please, we need more of these people.
Facts. I'll introduce you to them. They're amazing.
Exciting.
They're so amazing.
And so I guess this also shifts them very, very nicely to the fact that people who are internally unstable eventually collapse under their own patterns. And it's usually a projection.
Always is.
It's always is. Yeah. Thank you. Not usually. Always.
Always.
You don't need to interfere with that. Mm-hmm. Their own downfalls will be their downfall. Yeah. And we just gotta sit back and watch.
Sit back, relax, get a cup of tea, you know. Watch it happen.
Genuinely, yeah. And so, as our closing for this wonderful episode, becoming is an eclipse, temporary darkness, necessary alignment. Becoming is not loud, it's not cinematic, it's not a grand reveal, it's quiet recalibration. It's realizing you tolerated too much and choosing differently next time.
Yeah.
It's sitting in internships, feeling small, and showing up anyway. Because I know I still got up at 7 a.m. every single day.
Every single day. Oh.
And it's making episodes before you feel qualified. It's questioning expectations. It's accepting people as they are. It's choosing yourself without an announcement. An eclipse doesn't mean the sun disappeared. It means something aligned. And maybe the moments where you felt destroyed weren't destruction at all. They were alignment. Maybe the discomfort wasn't loss. It was redirection. You will be misunderstood. You will outgrow rooms. You will question the path you choose. You will doubt your competence. You will feel embarrassed for existing. You will feel behind. And then you'll realize none of it was destruction. It was a transition. And maybe the answer isn't in what we're asking for, but in who we're becoming while we're waiting. And there is so much power in circling back to yourself. And you will realize the you that you've always dreamt of has always been there. It's just needed the correct environment, the correct people, and just a little bit of confidence that, just a little bit of confidence in yourself.
Yeah.
And life will flourish. Life will flourish once you believe that this redirection is not something that you should stumble upon, but something that you should grab with both hands and dive right in.
Say, I'm ready. I'll take it. Let's do it.
Literally, honestly. Thank you so much, Sara, for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you back on the podcast. I hope you enjoyed this. I definitely know that I did so much.
I really did.
And here's to many more wonderful projects. Genuinely, you're awesome.
Of course.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. This was Sara and Velak. See you guys next time.
Bye-bye.
Beautiful.
Yay! We smashed it.
Oh, we did.
And then next, you're going to get these recorded by Alt Media.